Cutting your body fat in half to get visible abs in 90 days sounds unrealistic, but I've spent the past 5 years testing this on myself and with clients to find the fastest and easiest way to transform your physique. I'm going to show you the structure, the training, calorie targets, and the biggest mistakes holding people back. Step 1 is critical if you want to see big changes to your body in 3 months. And it works like this. If you were planning a road trip covering hundreds of miles, the first thing you're going to need is a start and a finish. Otherwise, you're just driving around aimlessly. When you know where you want to go, you type it into Google Maps and it gives you a road to follow, which is the fastest and easiest way to get there. The same thing applies to getting a transformation. You say, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is my starting point and this is where I'd like to go. Once you have that information, you can start planning the journey. Now, if it's far, you wouldn't white knuckle it and try and do the whole trip in one go. You're going to need to stop off for fuel, have a break, drink some coffee. We do the exact same things when we're losing body fat and building muscle. So here's what that looks like. For a big fat loss result, you need to give yourself about 8 to 16 weeks. A lot can change in 12, which is just under 90 days. So we'll go with that. Your first 2 weeks is where you're going to make the most mistakes. If you haven't tracked macros before, which is protein, carbs, and fats, you're going to get overwhelmed trying to get those numbers to match what you should be having. It's like playing Tetris with all the wrong shapes. But by doing it every day, by day 14, you will be better, and your own internal database for what is in food will begin to improve. So you're learning a valuable skill. When you reach the 4-week mark, you should start to notice some changes in your appearance. This is the stopping off for a coffee point on your road trip. Seeing some visual feedback after you've been working so hard gives you a boost in energy and motivation. Now, when we reach the end of the 4 or 6 week mark, so 1/3 or halfway through, I like to pick up the speed and start doing things that really aren't sustainable in the long run, but they are for a short duration. So this can be a further reduction in calories, an increase in cardio, a higher step count, or all of the above. This finger doesn't work. That's how I count. This all depends on the destination. How far do you want to go? When you're moving at a high speed like this, it's important to have more fuel ups along the way. This is where we squeeze in a strategic high calorie day to offset the effects of doing too much and wearing yourself down. And we just repeat this until we get to around week 10. And this is where you ask, can I do any more to add the finishing touches? Or is this all I can manage for the next couple of weeks because I'm hanging on by a thread? And that's the framework of cutting your body fat in half. It's really simple. When I use that term, by the way, cutting your body fat in half, if you're a bigger guy at your starting point, then yeah, you absolutely can, like me, Danny, or Dan. But if you're lighter, you won't need to lose as much to have the same effect. I wouldn't even get caught up in trying to know what your body fat percent is. It doesn't matter. Just go off how you look. So now you know the general structure. We need to go one layer deeper and map out how we're going to train. And honestly, the training split doesn't matter that much in a fat loss phase, but there's an easy way to do it and there's a hard way. If you want to look more defined and muscular, you've got to lift 100%, but you could lift 3 days a week or 6 days a week and pretty much get the same results. I'd argue that 5 or 6 days lifting is too much, and that the person who lifts 3 to 4 days will outwork the guy trying to do 5 or 6 in every other area of importance. High step count, meal prep, cardio, consistent tracking, and rest and recovery. Remember, you're on a limited supply of energy. These are the biggest levers when it comes to shifting a ton of body fat, which, when done correctly, will make you look more muscular and jacked than ever. So I would either do 3 full body workouts, or 2 upper, 2 lower, or if you don't give a shit about your legs, or they're a strong point for you, you could do upper, lower, push, pull, something like that. And think of it this way, if you only know you're lifting weights 3 or 4 times a week, you're going to push the intensity. As soon as you get into 5 or 6, the quality of those sessions is going to drop. I'd rather you hit 15 to 20k steps than go to the gym at that point, which brings me on to my next point. Your step count is the most underrated tool when it comes to fat loss. Look at it this way, if you had 2 identical guys on the same diet, the same training program, but one guy did 8k steps a day and the other guy did 16, who do you think loses more fat by the end of it? Obviously, it's this guy, innit? And I know that seems annoyingly simple, but it's true. The difference could be kilograms of body fat by the end of it, just from steps. Again, this ties back to having the energy and willpower to do this, which is why a lower frequency training program could really help. But we're not done yet. Remember I said this is about doing things that aren't sustainable? Well, you probably need to squeeze in some cardio as well. For the most part, you want to keep it low to moderate intensity, like a steady cycle on the bike, a slow climb on the Stairmaster, or a comfortable pace on the cross trainer. Super high heart rates from really intense circuits can beat you up. I did a lot of running and Hyrox training last year while getting very lean, and it worked, but I wouldn't recommend many people to do this because it will interfere with your lifting sessions. And for now, the priority isn't fitness, it's changing the shape of your body. Next, I'm going to show you how to eat in a way which makes fat loss easy. Before we get into meal structure, you need to know how many calories you need. And a quick and simple way we can do this right now is by timesing your current body weight in pounds by 10 to 12. Now we've got that number, we can build a meal plan. So what are we having? Looking at a food list like this just freaks me out. This is not good for my brain. So I like to break it into smaller ones, which are going to make up your food menu for a week or a month, depending on when you get bored and need to mix things up. The more robotic you can be with this and just get by eating the same things usually equals a better result because you're not making any errors. But if you live with your bird or your partner, you're going to need a different dinner every night, otherwise she's going to fucking hate you if you're whipping out another Tupperware box of fucking chicken and rice and all that shit. So my menu for a week or month would look like this. If, for example, you start getting bored with lunch, you might switch this out for rice and just change the sauce you're using. And that's it. It's really simple. And this is what gets you looking like a different person in 90 days. Little things like this. Now, you might love a little bit of chocolate or a pack of crisps and stuff like that. You can have it. It's just got to fit into your calories for the day. But what I've found is the more whole foods I have and the more ultra processed stuff I avoid, the better I feel. But I do go into robot mode when doing something like this. So I'm not sitting there after dinner nearly crying because I can't have a dairy milk. The temptation isn't there. And I know that isn't the case for everyone. So if you've got a sweet tooth and it makes you feel good and it'll help you stay on track, if you have a little bit of that, fit it in, or have a Diet Coke, something sweet like that, what doesn't, barely any calories. And this brings me on to my final point. Let's say you're doing all of this, but you still go and fuck it up and don't make any progress. It's almost always from a mental barrier. It starts as little things like not tracking on a Sunday, being under your steps by 2k and thinking, close enough. Making small changes to your plan, thinking, I'm better at this, I'll do that. Or maybe you think you're losing muscle, so you subconsciously start eating more and you justify it. You're slowly drifting off the tracks and you can't even see it happening. You've got to remember that even though this journey is one that's going to improve your health, your appearance, your self-esteem, your brain will still try and pull you back to your old ways. And it gets you when you're down, when you're tired, which is going to be numerous times throughout the journey. So just being aware of it and understanding that it's normal is good. You've got to fight back and do the difficult thing you don't want to do, because a few days later, you might look in the mirror and start to see your abs coming through or your bicep veins showing a bit, and you'll forget all about that slump you was in and you'll be motivated to push even more. So now you know exactly how to rebuild your body from the ground up. But here's the thing. This system is useless if you don't know how to maintain it. So watch this video next where I break down 20 lessons you need to know about if you want to get lean without undoing your progress a few weeks later.